guys, Bobby Hughes here with Hollow Point Firearms, and today I'm gonna be giving you guys a little video on refinishing butt stocks. Alright, this is part of the H&R 12 gauge series, and basically where I'm at right now is I've got the furniture. You know, you've seen the basic disassembly video kind of talking about the components of the shotgun and things like that. And if you remember, I talked to you about a little bit about what I was going to do to the actual buttstock on the shotgun, and I really wanted to do something unique to me, you know, to personalize the shotgun to me, and so I've chosen a way to do that, and I'm going to show you guys how we did that right now. So what I've got here is I've got the buttstock. Alright, now what I did, I'm kind of ahead of the game here. I didn't really do a lot of recording on it. Sometimes when I get into working on stuff, I forget to turn the video camera on, and then I get fixed on it and I don't even think about it. I'm going to show you guys where I'm at right now. Alright, so anyway, here's the buttstock, and I've got it all sanded down now. And if you remember what it looked like before, it was pretty much just a solid buttstock. There was really no contour to it. I mean, there was a little bit, you know, that it rounded off. I mentioned something about flattening the underhand, the grip here, flattening that out a little bit to make it a little bit more grippable, I guess you could say. Well, as far as, you know, recontouring goes, what I did was I flattened out the edges with a rasp or a file, and then moved up to a file and flattened those out. I've done a lot of sanding on it so far to try to get it nice and smooth again. And then what I did here on the bottom, just wanted to add a little bit of personality to it, you know, make it look different than all the other H&R 12 gauges. I took actually I've got them laid out here so you guys can see them. I started out and I used a framing square, and I laid the framing square on there, and then picked my angle that I was going to use, and took a pencil and I drew a line all the way across. All right, even though I wasn't going to use it, and then I measured in I think 2.5 inches or something like that, and made a tick mark, and then I replicated the same marks on the other side. And then after that, what I did was I started with a round file, or actually this is a round rasp. It's a 8-inch round is what it says. It's a Craftsman, so it doesn't really give me a good outlook on it. And I took the rasp and I laid it at the angle of the pencil line, and I started just rasping into the side of it until I got a nice little contour down far enough. Alright, and I did the same on this side, and that was kind of my guideline. Then I moved up to actually I don't have the rasp down here, but I used a rasp to take off the roundness of it to kind of file this down, and then I used a file to smooth it out a little bit, and I just used this file right along there. And then now after that, whenever you do any rasping or cutting into the wood, you're going to expose that grain. You have to sand a lot. So I got that done. I got all the sanding done on that, and I think that looks pretty cool. You know, it's different. It's not I didn't want it to look like every other 12 gauge buttstock, so did some work there. I think that looks kind of cool. And then for this, you guys know my last name is Hughes. I'm pretty partial to an H. I don't know why. You know, I did some furniture last year for my wife, and for a bedroom suit, and I called it the H series. And in the top drawers there's a H that's kind of embedded into the wood, and you can't really see it unless you're looking for it, but it looks really cool. It's like it's part of the trim work. So I'm kind of partial to the H. You know, it's my last name, or the first letter of my last name. So I was trying to decide what I wanted to do on the buttstock, and I thought about, you know, making a Hollow Point Firearms logo or whatever. My wife said with it being an old shotgun, I should use an H. So that's kind of what I've done here. What I did was I started with my Copenhagen can to make my perfectly round circle. So I laid that on the buttstock, and then I just traced around it, and that gave me a perfect symmetrical circle. Alright, so got that done. I drew that out, and then I took a pencil, lead pencil, and just kind of traced out an H by hand to kind of, you know, the design that I wanted. And then what I did was I used a Dremel. and I took the Dremel and a router bit for the Dremel, and I pretty much just started carving away at it. Now you can see the texture that's in here still. I did that on purpose. Alright, I could have used a sander bit for my Dremel and smoothed that out and made it nice and smooth, but I want it to look like it was hand carved in there, so that's what I left that carved out. Basically what it is the H is raised. This would be called a raised letter carving, and I carved everything around it to make the H the same height as the rest of the buttstock. So this is actually carved down in there. And so I like that. I like that look. I think it looks cool. But anyway, it's raised. And then what I did was I used a walnut stain, and I stained like this whole section of the buttstock. And then I used our True, which I'll show you guys what we're going to use that for to finish the buttstock. I put a couple of coats on there, and then I resanded it back down. Alright, and the reason why I did that is because I want that to stand out. Alright, I want it to look different, like kind of like two-tone sort of. So I did that on purpose, and now I've got it sanded back down. I've pretty much finished all of the sand work on it at this stage. It's about all the sanding that we're going to do. And now I'm ready to put our first coat of color stain on here. This is going to give us our color for our buttstock. Alright, if you notice here on the end, I haven't sanded any of this down, because remember we talked about not adjusting that because it's so crucial to get the frame, the receiver, to sit perfectly in there so that it doesn't twist around. So I haven't messed with that at all. I left the butt plate on the shotgun on the stock until I got done sanding it. So I've sanded the edges off of here. You can tell the color difference. So I'll get that fixed up later, but remember the little trick I told you about? Leave it on there, and then that way as you take layers of wood off, you're also taking layers of the butt plate off. That way the butt plate doesn't extend out over the edge of the buttstock, so that it still matches up. Alright guys, so the color that I've chosen to use for the buttstock is red oak. Alright, now here's a little tip for you. You don't have to use, well, let me go ahead and show you this that we're using. I use Birchwood Casey products when I'm finishing my buttstocks, any furniture actually, flooring grips or whatever. You can buy a little kit. It comes with a walnut stain and the True, and also comes with this Stock and Sheen conditioner. Alright, it comes in a little 3-piece kit. It's good stuff. Birchwood Casey makes some rockin' products. But anyway, you don't have to use the actual gun stain. Alright, this is just a generic walnut stain. There's nothing special about it. It's just stain. So you can choose to use whatever color that you want to use. In this case, I've chosen to use the red oak stain. This is just some Minwax stuff that I picked up. Actually, I think I used this to finish my dad's Christmas present with. And, you know, so I've got some here. But this is the color that I've chosen to use. It's going to give us a nice dark red color. A little bit darker than oak, or I'm sorry, darker than walnut. But it's been setting for a little while. Just want to make sure I get all the sediment off of the bottom of it. So I'm just shaking it up. And then I will get to staining. Alright, now there's different techniques for staining. So you're going to get kind of a woodworking class 101 right now at the same time. There's different techniques to staining. There's rag staining, which is where you dip a rag in the stain and finish it that way. You just dip the rag and then wipe it on, just like if you were polishing your shoes or whatever. There's also foam brush staining, where you use a foam brush and the foam fills up in the brush and you stain it that way. Then there's brush staining, which is what I'm going to be doing. Brush staining doesn't give you a finish like you would want as a final coat finish. Brush staining is just to color the wood, and in this case that's all we're doing is coloring the wood. And then here in the next few videos we're going to be going back and doing a little bit more sanding after we get the color on. So in this case I'm going to be using just a stain brush. This is a polyurethane brush, and it works great. We're going to be using that to just put our color onto the wood, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so like I said, I've already got it all sanded down here. I've wiped it down, so we're ready to go ahead and start coloring. What I do is I start from the bottom and work my way up to the top. Alright? And what that does is that allows the stain at the bottom to set in, and then as I come up, any stain that runs down will run into the stuff that's already stained. If you start from the top and you get a run, and it takes you a minute or two to get to the bottom, you will always see that run in your stain work. Alright, so an important tip is to always start at the bottom. So I'm just going to start down here at the bottom. Let me move this out of the way here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Start down here at the bottom, and I'm just going to color it in. Alright, stain's not like paint. You don't have to put it on in a certain motion or, you know, whatever. Because all stain does is stain the wood. Now, a lot of people will ask me, Bobby, why do you use a brush when you stain as opposed to just using a rag and rag staining? And I tend to most of the time use a method where I brush it on, and then after the stain soaks for a little bit, then I will use a rag and wipe the excess off. And they're like, well, why do you do that? Why don't you just use a rag in the first place? Well, there's a lot of pores in wood, alright, and that's something we'll talk about here in the next step when we start wet sanding. There's a lot of pores in wood. It's pretty much what it is. Wood is think of wood like a sponge. Lots of micro pores in it. And I like to use a brush at first because it lets me get into those pores better. And especially like in an area like this where I'm trying to get this H nice and colored, it allows that stain to get down in, the brush pushes the stain into those pores as opposed to just rubbing over top of them. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this thing set for just a few minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and start put my coat on the 4-end grip. Alright, so with a 4-end grip I'll just do the same thing. Another thing that people tend to not do, they just don't think about it, is a lot of times, like this piece right here on the end, there's a plastic piece that goes back on here, and that's what holds the back end of the 4-end grip to the barrel or to the frame. Alright, a lot of people will leave that unfinished, they just won't think about it. Alright, it's important to finish everything because this is going to be a seal. It seals the wood, keep moisture out, keeps it from rotting, and you know, it makes you know that you did it the right way. Alright, so I got the stain on there, I'm going to let that set. Let that set while we take the buttstock now and go back with a rag. I've got a clean, dry rag, and what I'm going to do now is just rub the excess stain off of the stock. And now I'm going to go back and put another coat on. Alright, so the same process we used before. Start at the bottom. Another thing too, guys, just some safety for you. I've been doing this for years. I've been working with stain and paint and stuff like that since I was a kid. So my skin is pretty much immune to it. It will stain your hands a little bit, but it'll rub off after a couple of days. I don't wear gloves. I hate wearing gloves unless my hands are just numb. I just hate wearing gloves because I can't feel what I'm doing. So, whoops. So anyway, I don't wear gloves. If you know, if you've not stained a lot before, it's probably a good idea for you to wear some latex gloves or some nitrile gloves or something like that. Also, just a keynote on ventilation. You should always do this in a well-ventilated area. I'm not right now, and the only reason why I'm not right now is because my wife's not home. So she's not here to fuss at me about the fumes coming upstairs and all that good stuff. So anyway, she doesn't like it too much. Alright, so we've got our second coat on the buttstock. So we'll let that set again. Take our 4-inch grip and use our rag. Do the same thing. Wipe it down. Alright, get the excess stain off of it now that it's been setting for a little bit. It's had time to soak in. Alright, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll go ahead and throw another coat of stain on our 4-inch grip. You always want to be even, guys. If you put 2 coats of stain on your buttstock, put 2 coats of stain on your 4-inch grip. Alright, 9 times out of 10, the 4-inch grip and the buttstock are from the same piece of wood when they're made. The only catch to that is if you've replaced the 4-inch grip. You know, you broke it, so you ordered one off Brownells or Midway or whatever. You ordered you a new 4-inch grip, or you ordered a new buttstock, whatever. Then, of course, they're not going to be coming from the same piece of wood. And more than likely, they're the same type of wood, you know, whether it be hickory or maple or whatever. But family of trees or, you know, the actual same board is not going to have the same characteristics as if you had I'm sorry, let me rephrase this. When they come from the same piece of wood, they have the same characteristics. Alright, the same grain patterns, the same amount of the level of porousness of the, I don't think that's a word, but you guys get what I'm saying. The amount of pores that are in the wood is going to be close to the same. If you have separate pieces, then you know, obviously, even if they are the same wood family, they're not the same characteristics. So in that case, you guys need to wait for your stains to dry so that you can compare the color differences. And in that case, you may need to do different types or different amounts of coats of the stain to make the colors match properly. Alright, 4-inch grip's done. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and put our stain up so it doesn't dry out. Little tip for you on this: if you're one of those guys that have problems with that, you want to make sure this thing's sealed well. Alright, if it's not sealed, then your stain's going to dry out. Same with paint. But you tend to get stain that sits around the rim here. Lay your cap back in there, throw a rag over it, wipe it off, and no splatter on the walls or on the furniture or anything like that. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it on staining or coloring your furniture. Whether it be your buttstock or 4-in grip or whatever you're doing, that's pretty much the technique on how I color and stain my furniture. All right. So anyway, guys, that's the whole process for coloring the furniture. And what we'll do now is I'll do it on a separate video because it's probably going to be a little bit longer video. So I want to divide these videos up a little bit so that they're not like friggin' 3 hours long. So the next step after this is going to be our first coat of our true wool. Alright, and then we're going to go into wet sanding and finishing and all the different coats of true wool that we use. It's all hand rubbed, and then we'll go into finishing the finish. Alright, so probably a series of videos on just finishing our furniture on here. Okay, so don't think that this is all you have to do is just stain it and throw it back on the rifle, because it's not, or the shotgun. It's susceptible to moisture just the same as it is if it wasn't stained. Alright, so we have to put that protective coat on there, and we'll get into that in some more videos. Alright, so anyway guys, that's how you color it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Click the like button. If you're not subscribed to us, consider subscribing. Always helps us out. And as always, guys, thank you guys for your continued views on checking out how I do things and stuff like that. So anyway, guys, until next time, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See y'all.